There we go. Evening, everyone. I'm here tonight with Miss Sheila. I am happy to have her on and help her, bring some awareness to her only son, and that's correct. Now say his J Keys,
Jocques.
Jacques. I knew I was gonna get it, but but and he's also known as Jay, correct?
Correct. Correct.
Um, and I'm just happy to help. I am going to just make sure I share this into the page. A lot of people are just on Facebook, so I make sure that I share in there so that they get there. I just want to remind everybody that this is his mother, and to please be respectful. These are families. Um, Ask questions. They want you to know, but just please remember, do it in a respectful manner. So I always start out, I think it's very important, and I think that's kind of some things that we forget, that the people behind these pictures and these posts are actual real life people that people miss and they loved. And so I think it's very important to tell us about him a little bit. Who was he? Was he funny? Was
Oh
he,
yes.
just
Okay. Um, Jay, as I often call him, even though I named him Jacques, I was like, shoot, that's too long. Let me just shorten it. And so he is the oldest of four children, and he's also the only boy. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So
So
he had a big role with the little sisters.
yes, most definitely, most definitely. Jay was funny. Even though he seemed like he was this big tough guy, to me he was just a big old soft teddy bear. He loved to laugh and crack jokes. He was a huge Dallas Cowboys fan. That's me and him. That's our little thing, the Cowboys. Um, he was a father of two, but he also was the father of six other children because the youngest son's mother had six other children, and so he played a father figure to those children as well.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Yeah.
he had two cousins. They were all born January, February, and March. Well, Jacques was the youngest of the three. It was his cousin Joe Mack and his cousin Ebony. So she's the middle. So you can just imagine growing up, they were very protective. You
Yeah.
know, he didn't believe in guys walking up to his girl cousins or his sisters. So whenever they would go in the club, if and Jay walk in, they was like, "Oh man, he's here. We ain't gonna have no fun because he gonna stop everything." And
Yeah.
so,
Yes.
um, yeah, but like I said, he was the oldest of four, so he had three sisters living in the house with him, and um, the older two, they were Jay, Anita, and Asia. They were 2 years apart, but then Alexis, she comes way after. But he was the man of the house.
Yeah.
He played many roles: the son, the protector, big brother, you know, even a father figure to those girls because their fathers were in their life. And so when they lost him, it was like their whole world come crashing down because they was like, that was my hero, our mentor, our everything,
I mean,
you
just in
know.
the picture I have his smile, I think just everything in his smile and his eyes says everything about him and who he was.
Oh yeah.
I can imagine the loss. I really,
He if you had a bad day, all Jay had to do was walk in the room and he's gonna say something funny or do
yeah.
something to change, your mood. He didn't believe in being sad and down about things, he would always say, look at the brighter side,
Yeah.
and stuff. And that smile that he wears, that's his picture in my background. So you
Yeah.
see the smile. You see, I mean, he wore that smile every single day.
I feel like if you were in a bad mood and he was like that type of person that would just come sit down beside and just with that huge smile, and it was just you couldn't help but to smile, and
Yeah,
no matter
yeah.
what mood you were in. That's what I get when I look at
And
his photos.
and like, even when he got killed, his kindergarten teacher, imagine that, how many years ago that was. She reached out to me and she was like, I just wanted to reach out, give my condolences, and to let you know I will not be attending his funeral because I want to remember the little boy with the smile. And she said, so therefore I will not be coming. And he thought a lot about her because, even when he became a father, he made sure, because she was, a school teacher.
Yeah.
So she had switched schools and he made it a point to find out what school she was at. And, people were trying to figure out her age. And so when they was like, well, some young man, because I was with him, come here looking for you. And he looks to be like, in his 20s or 30s. And so when she came out and he smiled, she knew exactly who he was,
Yeah.
you know. And that was his kindergarten teacher. Now, his other mother, Mrs. Bowen, because later on in life, as he was growing up, probably third grade, uh, they said that he had ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
So a teacher that specialized in that in his middle school age, uh, she became real close with him. And he called her his other mother. She was a white lady, but that didn't matter. And
Yeah.
I didn't know that he had went and found her when he graduated because, to them, Jay was not going to graduate. That's what the school systems were saying.
Mhm.
He wasn't going to graduate. He was going to do this and that. But he ended up graduating. And
That's wonderful.
when she didn't know of his passing right away, it was like maybe months later before she found out. And she literally had to go to the hospital because she thought she was having a heart attack because she just couldn't believe it. And he had sent her some pictures. And on those pictures, he wrote that I never would have made it without my two mamas. So he thought very highly of her,
Yeah.
and we've connected and we've been connected ever since. Uh, he was there with her first child, and stuff.
Oh,
I mean, it was just a lot of
that's
stuff.
special. Yeah.
Uh, he Jay often said, "Mama, you don't know nothing about your son. I'm world known. I'm nationwide." And after his death, and after we kept getting all this publicity and stuff, we received postcards from all over, you know, and stuff about him during the community oversight time. And then I met some people from Sweden. I got
Oh, wow.
somebody contacted me, and they said some people from Sweden are coming into town, and they want to do uh, uh, like a little documentary on him. And I'm like, okay. So when I met them, I'm like, well, how did y'all hear about it? They was like, it was on our news, and we was like, we need to come to Tennessee and find you. And so, I met them, and I told my husband, I said, well, he often said that he was nationwide and world known. I said, I guess he truly is. He's just not here to see it,
Yeah.
and Jay would give you the shirt off his back. I found out through family members that I didn't think that he would ever, conversate with. They were like, he helped us out a whole lot. People just didn't know, and I was overwhelmed with how many people that was at his services. That, I mean, it blew me away because uh the pastor, he was like, it's probably over 600 people, and that's not including the people that has come and go.
Wow.
And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And uh I mean, he's just an
But as a
amazing
mother,
child.
and just my mom, thinking of my mom and my parents, as much as we know our kids, we see one perspective. I bet that was just amazing to see, just see all the people he touched and the different perspectives, and it's just,
Yeah,
I bet it was just surely touching just to
it
see.
was. It
Yeah.
truly was. I mean, but my youngest daughter, Alexis, she was really devastated. Um, she started living like she was homeless, and I mean, just different stuff, and it broke my heart, but I couldn't help her.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
she almost didn't graduate. And, when they called us, I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes to school every day. And it's like, nah. And when she's here, she's not doing the work, so she's failing. So my husband and I, we went to the school, and I'm like, when did all this start? I'm like, because if you look at her school record from kindergarten all the way up to this point, she was an A and B student. And now she's making straight F's. I said, so nothing occurred to y'all that something could be wrong?
Exactly.
And so I'm like, y'all do know that her brother got killed. And they was like, who's her brother? So when I told them, they was like, okay, now it makes sense. And so some of the teachers just gave her the grades. And it was a few that made her do some work,
Yeah.
but she got it done, and stuff. And we was like, that's all he ever wanted was for you to graduate. And the girls couldn't wear skirts and stuff. If they did, they had to have shorts up under there. I mean, he he was
Yeah.
very protective, you know, and yeah, I mean, he was just a big-hearted person.
So I can imagine. I mean, that's all I can do is imagine how your guys have been since Jay's been gone.
Yeah,
It seems like he was a huge part of the family, you know?
he was, you
I
know. I even just, well, a guy named who worked for I can't think of it right now. Um, it's a paper, the scene.
okay.
I had talked to the guy there, and he said, I got to show you something. And this was like years ago. He said, I was searching his name, and this popped up. Because, see, my parents, they were farmers, and they had they sold fruits and vegetables down on the farmers market,
Okay.
where Jay often went and helped his grandparents. And in on that, they got a picture of him picking up turnip greens, trying to, he's serving the people.
Hmm.
And the name of the thing was Faces in the Crowd, and it was him.
Oh,
And I'm like, wow,
yeah.
and that was years ago.
Wow.
So
I bet
yeah,
that was just awesome to see.
it was,
I
it
bet it
was.
was. I just That's so awesome. That's awesome. And the fact that people take the time to show that is amazing.
Yeah.
So Kind of what was Jay up to around the time getting closer here? What was he what was he doing?
He was working, being a dad,
Mhm.
and everything, and of course, being a brother and son of um, just being Jay. He loved to help and everything, and
Yeah.
so you
No.
know,
Did you talk to him that day?
I did not. My my birthday was February 5th, and I was Mark and I was in a head-on car collision on the
Oh,
4th
my.
of February of 2017. My birthday was the 5th, and at 12:55, February 10th, I got the call that he had been shot.
Wow.
I had talked to him the day before that,
Yeah.
and we've always have said that we love each other before we hang up. But
Yeah.
that particular day, he was like, "Mama, I love you always. Remember that I love you always." And usually it's just "I love you, Mama."
Yeah.
But that particular day, it was like, "I love you always." So I often wonder if people can sense when something's getting ready to
Just saying.
happen,
Yeah.
because he even went to church with me um 2 weeks before he got killed. He called me. I didn't call him. And he was like, "Mom, I'm going to church with you Sunday." And I'm like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go to church with you."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, okay then." And so when that Sunday came, I didn't have a chance to call him. He was calling, talking about, "Well, what time we leaving?" So I know to be ready. And I went and we went and picked him up. He was standing out there. He was ready to go. And one of his favorite gospel songs is "Jesus Cares."
Yeah. Mhm.
And believe it or not, at church, it was men's Sunday to sing, and that's one of the songs that was sung.
I get goosebumps.
I know, I do
I
too.
believe in all of that stuff. I really do, and those are some very good memories that you can cherish. Wow, and think back on. And I do believe that. I had an uncle. Oh gosh, I was a very little girl and I remember her very vaguely. She was a very sweet lady, and she had cancer, and growing up, I always heard that, over the phone, they always said bye or no, no, see you later. It was
Yeah,
you see you later. And this particular time, the last time they talked, she said bye. And when he got off the phone, he always, he thought it was strange. And come to find out, it was by the morning came, she had passed.
yeah,
He always thought, she knew, they know something, they may not know that they know, but
you're right,
yeah,
right.
no, there's certain things, and yes, oh yes, I very much, I believe, and I think hindsight, looking back on that, it had to have been a realization for you.
Yeah, most definitely. Oh yeah,
So
most definitely.
on my page, I posted what I could find, of a few angles of where Jay is stopping at the stop sign, and then and then so on. And I will post them here too. I haven't got the links on there yet. Um,
Okay.
just to give kind of people. So first, when did you first receive the call?
I was at work.
Oh,
Uh,
Sheila, I'm sorry. I bet.
I yeah, I was at work, and that particular day, excuse me, I wasn't working alone. Normally, I'm working alone. I'm caregiver. So I was at my individual's home, just finishing up lunch, and like I said, I wasn't alone that day. You know, because I think I would have got a neglect charge because
Yeah,
I would have walked out.
absolutely. I was at SCNA. I did individual home to home, so I know exactly what you're. Hmm.
And so 12:55, I answered the phone and I hear Tamika on the other end and she's screaming.
Oh my god.
And I'm like, what are you saying? Only thing I could make out was Jay police. And I'm like, I don't know what you're saying. So she calmed down enough for me to understand. And she said, the police just shot Jocques. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. I'm like, and I'm turning around, going back and forth. I'm like, like I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And my coworker, he said, call your husband. And I called Mark and I'm screaming. I'm like, you got to get here. You got to get here. And so, Mark got there as fast as he could. I think we got at the hospital maybe by 1:15, 1:20. But as we're driving down Murfreesboro Road, right there where the underpath where the airport is, I told Mark, I said, he's gone. And he was like, quit saying that. You don't know. We don't know what kind of shape he's in. I said, and I'm telling you, my son is gone. He said, we're almost at the hospital. Let's just see what kind of shape he's in. So my nephew Josh was there and he was like, that's his mama right there. And his daddy let him through. And when we got in there, I'm seeing all these police standing around and, and family is coming at me left and right.
Wow.
And they put me in this room and I'm like, where's my son? They kept telling me he was in surgery. But Jay died out there on the scene because I saw a video of when the ambulance was taking him to the ambulance. They were walking very slow, not like somebody
And the urgent. There was no urgency.
right. And then his arm falls, and they pick it up and put it back up on the gurney. And I'm like, when
Jesus.
I saw that video, I'm like, that's where he died at, out there. He didn't die at that hospital. But of course, that's their thing. They have to say that they did what they had to do, as far as working on him and stuff. But he was already gone because when my oldest daughter, Anita, got there, she was like, why are y'all standing around my mama? I don't want to cuss. She was like, go on and tell my mama her effing son is dead. Said, because it's all over the news. And they was like, ain't nothing over the news. She said, yeah, it's all over the news that he's died. And y'all trying to tell her
That's
he's in
terrible.
surgery. And then Asia, the second daughter, she arrives. Alexis, the youngest daughter, she's at school. And I kept calling her. And she was like, my mama don't call me when I'm at school. Something is wrong. So I didn't tell her then. I just told her
Yeah.
that she needed to get
Yeah.
to the hospital. So my niece went and picked her up. My niece knew what was going on. And, you know, uh, when that doctor came in there and he was like, I did everything that I could, but I couldn't save him. And at that point, there's a detective in the room. And I'm like, I want to see my son. And he was like, well, you can't see him. I have orders for you not to see him.
Wow.
And I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was like, because you'll be tampering with evidence. And I'm like, what evidence? He's dead. What evidence
You don't
is
have
there?
to touch him if that's the case, but you can't. You can see his face. Nothing.
So I didn't see Jay until the day before his funeral, you know, um, which was the 17th of February.
I don't
Um,
know what I would do. It's just standing up there. It's one thing that he's gone, just and to hear them tell me I could not see him. I can't
yeah,
imagine how tough that was for you. Just being that close, and I very much feel for you for that.
and so at that point, my husband Mark and my brother Tony, they was like, "Well, can we go in?" And they was like, and he was like, "No, the orders are nobody is to go in." And then it's this big commotion going on because Asia's out there. She's yelling at the police, and they're coming at her, and stuff. And I'm like, "Let's just go. Let's just go." And so, I can't go into Vanderbilt emergency department.
I
I Because it feels like my chest tightens up, my stomach starts turning into knots, and like I can't breathe. And that's the only emergency room that does that to me.
okay.
Um, and I didn't realize it then, but a couple of years later, my brother Tony had an accident, and that's where that took him, and he ended up getting his left hand amputated. And I was sitting practically in the same
Oh
spot before they took me into this room, and all I could see is family members coming. And the more they came, the more it was like anxiety kicked in. Like I said, my
yeah.
chest was tightening up. I couldn't breathe, and I hit my husband's leg. I said, "I got to get out of here." And I guess they could tell that my expressions on my face had
Oh,
changed because my oldest brother, he was like, "Girl, you all right?" And I'm like,
I
"Yeah, yeah."
bet.
And he
Mm-hmm.
was like, "You ain't looking good." I'm like, "I'll be all right. I'm gonna go outside." And once I got outside, I was fine.
Yeah. Yes.
And then they took us to the eighth floor where they was going to take Tony, and I was fine there. So I know it's the emergency department.
Hmm. That trauma and that anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh my.
yeah, but yeah, and then we met with the ex mayor Megan
Was
Berry.
it- Also, I was going to
And
ask, kind of when things started calming down, what were some of the things that you were being told?
um, their main thing was protocol, because I mean I've heard that for up until May. From February to May, that's all I heard was protocol, protocol, protocol. Well, it's a protocol to do this because
Mhm.
I'm like, when are y'all gonna make a decision? Are y'all charging this officer or not? I need to know, and I need to know now. And they was like, oh, it's protocol. And so I'm like, what do they have on her to make her not say fire Lippert? And so, like I said, we met with them on the 13th. If I'm not mistaken, it was the 13th of February, that Monday. And and Steve Anderson was in there. There was the police chief at the time.
Okay.
And we're all standing around because they are the ones who called the meeting. And they're looking at us and we're looking at them. And finally, my sister was like, well, y'all the one called the meeting. What is it? And so she was like, well, I just want to extend my condolences, because I too have a son and I know how you feel. And before I knew it, I had hit the table. I'm like, you don't know how I feel. You might have a son, but your son is
Amen.
alive and mine is
Amen.
dead.
Amen.
There's no way you understand how I feel. Then I look over at Steve Anderson and I'm like, I just want to know who gave the order for me not to see my son at that hospital. And the only thing he could say was, ma'am, I don't know. Everything that was asked to him was, I don't know. I
And
don't know. And I finally told him, I'm like, you're the chief of police and you don't know what's going on in your department? Ma'am, I don't know. That's all I can tell you is I don't know.
then why are you here? Who can tell me
Exactly.
these things? Why did they send you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I look back at her and I'm like, so do y'all plan on paying for his funeral? And she was like, oh, honey, I don't know. I'll have to check and see. And I'm like, well, his funeral is Saturday.
Mm.
So how long is it going to take you to check and see? I will let you know. So before 7 o'clock Tuesday morning, my pastor was calling me and he was like, Sister Sheila, your son's funeral is paid for. He said, and if the GoFundMe, because I didn't know my sister had started a GoFundMe. He said if the GoFundMe hadn't have been as high as it was, they would have paid it all. So they ended up paying $5,000 because when I had told some of my family that I had asked them were they planning on paying for it, they was like they not gonna pay for that. If they do, they're gonna give you probably $200, $250. That's about it.
Yeah.
But they ended up paying $5,000, and I'm like, to
Wow.
me, that's an admission of guilt. They know Lippert killed him.
Now I wanna stop you there, and I wanna go back now, and I kind of want to talk about. 'Cause I want to come back to that.
Okay.
I want to come back to that. Um, so at this point, what were they telling you happened between that that stop? I know that they said that the initial reason was a rolling stop at that stop
Yeah,
sign
it's supposed to have been a traffic stop. I'm like, how do you get killed from a traffic stop?
there. That's
But
escalated pretty quickly.
um, but then they said that Jocques had attacked Lippert, and then they recanted, but it took them days to recant that there was no initial contact.
No, because in one of the I found, when we first talked, I only found a little snippet of where you could just see the officer, and then it looks like Jay was right there and out of nowhere. But I found another clip that shows that when it first started, Jay was over still by his what was it, an SUV type,
Yeah, yeah,
and the officer, they were a good distance away, as in they were exchanging words or something at that time. So the first clip showed, and the way they people talked is it was a face-to-face confrontation, and Jay lunged at him.
yeah,
He was quite a distance away when this first started.
yeah. And apparently, Jay didn't know that Lippert was even after him because he walked towards him.
And it was an unmarked car.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
And you see him dancing around, and then you see him run. Well, people was like, why did he run? He must have had a gun. He this, he that. And I'm like, no. My question is, what did Lippert say to him to make him
Make
run?
him run. That was my
It's
first question. Mm-hmm.
because he's been stopped by the police before and hadn't ran. So what made this day different? Something made it different.
Yeah.
And MNPD, which is Metro Nashville Police Department, 30 minutes of Jay getting shot, they had that gun plastered all over Twitter. There was a young lady in the parking lot, and I'll just say Miss Fry. I won't say her
Mm-hmm.
first name.
That is fine.
Was in her car. Now she's facing the building, so everything else is going on behind her.
Okay. Okay.
Now they allow her to leave the scene. I didn't think you could do that. That's a witness.
Did she take a statement? Did she go down and take a
No,
statement from
no,
there?
no. She went days later. Like I said, by this time, this gun is plastered all over Twitter, it's plastered all over the news, everything. So when they finally talked to her and asked her, what did the gun look like? Hey, she
Oh, of
seen
course
the
she
gun.
knew.
She
Wow.
seen it.
I, wow.
And I often say, every mother knows her child. Every mother. You know what that child will and will not do. And I told them, if Jay had a gun, the first time you shot him and he got up, he would have shot back.
Because they're saying that he, and in the video, and I've watched and rewatched that, and you know, it kind of appears that something did. I never thought it was a gun or maybe possibly like his phone in the struggle,
Right.
But my point is, even if he did at that point, he didn't have a gun, and I know they're gonna say, well, he could have had another one. You know what I mean?
Right.
But he was shot and down, and then shot. What? How many times did they say that he was?
They said he was shot 3 times. Once in the hip, they once in the torso, and once I think in the upper back, I believe, which is main arteries sections.
I just, let's say that he did have a gun, but he was shot twice. That third shot, from what I see in the video, I just think that it was just a little excessive at that point. It was unneeded. He
I
was,
think after the first shot was
yeah,
over excessive because he would have had to went to the hospital to get that bullet out.
and
You
I
had
just
you had his vehicle. He was already injured. You didn't have to shoot him
no,
anymore.
no.
And I've watched that video so many times. And if you don't watch it but just looking at it and not really studying it,
Mhm.
you will not see Lippert do what I'm about to say. But that third shot, Lippert was standing over him.
Over, yes, I
He
agree.
was
Like,
standing over him when he shot him that third time.
I agree. I very much agree, and I've had people watch the video, and I'm like, "Tell me what you see." And we've all come to say, agreeance that man, it's just almost like he walked over, looked down, and put that last one in him, and it was just chilling to see it.
And so, um,
So they're saying that let me bring you back to this gun, okay?
mhm.
I want to talk about this. Um, let's talk about that. What do you know? What did you find out about that gun?
So on May 11th of 2017, at the DA's office, Glenn is Glenn Funk, some of his colleagues. Then there's 2 attorneys, my husband, and my 2 oldest daughters, Anita and Asia.
Okay.
And he's like, tell me a little bit about Jay. So I'm like, okay. So we're telling him how Jay was, and everything. And so he's leaning back in his chair, and I see his facial expressions change. The color of his face started getting red,
Hmm.
and he was like, I've come to the decision I will not be charging. Officer Lippert with his murder. He said, but I will tell you this. The gun came up, the gun belonged to a correctional officer in Ashland City. This gun that they say that Jay supposedly had, he was supposed to have stolen it in 2001.
And now let's remind everybody this is happening in 2017.
Correct. He said also, we tested the gun. Jay's fingerprints, well, he called him Jocques. Jocques's fingerprints nor his DNA was on the gun. And we're like, he didn't have a gun.
Hmm.
And they was trying to feed us some cockamamie bull crap that you can touch something and your DNA not be on it.
Huh. Really?
That's what they
I'm
were.
got you. That'd be an interesting question for a few people that I know.
And I'm like, but you would think that if he went through all the trouble to steal this gun in 2001
That's such a long time.
and not pick it up till February 10th, 2017, hey, let me just pick this gun up and carry it on me today.
And nothing of him, no remnants of him was found in it.
Nothing. Now, they did say that there were prints on the gun, but they
Oh.
only tested the gun for Jocques's.
Oh, wow. So where is that gun now, to your knowledge?
I don't know. I don't know if the correctional officer has it back, and he said that the serial number was still on it, which that also, if he stole this gun, when you think he would have saw the serial
Yeah.
number off of it?
Especially given where they're saying it came from. The corrections office house.
Right. And so the serial number was still on that. So that's how they traced it back to this correctional officer.
So how did Jay end up with this gun from a corrections officer?
He claimed, and when I say he, I mean Glenn Funk. He says that Jay knew either, I don't know if she was married to the guy or he was her boyfriend. Mm. And that's how he ended up with the gun. But the thing of it is, the correctional officer never reported the gun stolen.
Really? That's interesting. Wouldn't he almost have to, given who he was, you would think?
Who she was.
Oh, okay. It was all right.
It was a
either way,
female
given
correctional
who she
officer.
was, you would think that she would have to almost have to report that, something like that.
You would think.
Wow.
You would think.
From 2001 all the way up to 2017, it resurfaces.
Yeah.
So do you know if he knew this corrections officer?
No.
Have you found any connection?
No. And to my knowing, Jay's never been to Ashland City. I know Steve Anderson lives in Ashland City.
Wow. So we have a gun that was supposedly stolen over a decade before.
Yeah.
None of Jay's DNA on that gun.
No.
And that was a scuffle. He didn't have, okay, let me ask you this. Did he have gloves on during this scuffle?
Nope.
Because if they're saying he pulled it out and brandished it, I mean, unless he had gloves on, then you would think that there would be fingerprints on there.
Nope. He did not have gloves on. Nothing.
Wow.
And they said it fell from his waist. Now, Jay wore a belt, but he didn't wear it to where it would be so tight. So
even wait, let me just back you up here, because I guess I was confused. So he didn't pull it out.
No, they said it
He never
fell.
pointed it at them. He never threatened, to your knowledge at that point. It just
No.
literally they're saying it fell out during the scuffle.
And he was trying to,
And he was shot 3 times.
yeah.
Wow. Hmm.
Now, I know that
So in
wherever,
which the officer could have pulled, I mean, okay, so I went back up. You get back to where this initial scuffle first happened. And like I said, when they initially started talking to each other, they were a good 30, 40, 50 feet away. I mean, 2 car lengths at least or more away from each other. And you can
and
clearly
I'm sorry, but I don't even think that they were even talking to each other that far apart because, like I said, Jay was already exited out of his vehicle when
yeah.
Lippert came on the scene, and he was walking towards him. Like he didn't know Lippert was there for him.
See, and there's this little bit that you can't see, that I haven't been that few in, where it goes out of and it's important because I'm just saying, instead of pulling out that gun, I just feel like there was ample when he was running. You could have chosen that taser, and as soon you would have
Yeah,
caught. I mean, and that's just the point I want to make there. I just feel like before it ever got there, he didn't pull a gun out at you. As far as his knowledge, he wouldn't have known that Jay had a gun on him at that point if they're saying that it's in the waistband.
yeah, that's where
So
they
he
said
could have,
it supposedly was. I keep saying supposedly because
because
Jay didn't have a gun.
yeah, yeah, and that's what I want to bring to. So, what do you knowing Jay? I want to talk about the cell phone now.
Hmm.
So, from talking to you, and correct me if I'm wrong, that is what you believe that
Yeah.
maybe it was, and I do. I just want to firmly say that out there too. That's my opinion, too. So, describe the cell phone. Mhm.
So it took me a year to get his cell phone back. And I'm thinking, okay, when I get this phone back, I'll be able to get pictures,
Yeah.
videos, and all this other good stuff. Well, when I finally opened it up, I just instantly just started crying because they took something and destroyed the whole inside of that phone. So now I'm thinking, I know it was his phone that he had that he dropped, and possibly he was recording it
Yeah.
because before his incident, you got Michael Brown, you got
Yes.
uh Freddie Gray, you got all these people being killed by the police. And most now, everybody, if the police come on the scene, what is people doing?
They
They're
turn on.
video.
Yeah.
So you tore this phone up because y'all seen something in that phone that could incriminate Lippert, and you couldn't afford for that evidence to be seen.
Because they didn't have
That's
body
my
cams
theory, and that's what I'm sticking to.
because that officer did not have a body cam
No,
on. So,
no.
yeah, I think it's very plausible that
Lippert also picked the supposedly gun up and moved it to his car, to the trunk of his car. He said he was securing it. Why? Jay is down there on the
yeah,
ground,
yeah,
shot. He
he's
can't
not
move.
doing nothing.
So why did you feel now the gun dropped way back there, not where you standing over him, shoot him?
Mhm.
So why did you feel the need to pick the gun up? Why did you move it?
Wow. So we don't know. You don't know any of the is Rupert? I don't,
Lipper, Lipper.
Lipper. Has he ever gave statement to what went down
I
between?
I think he has, but also they turned Jacques into a suspect instead of a victim by pulling up his arrest records and stuff. And I'm like, no, you don't get to do that. Because whatever he did then is not the reason why he's laying there dead.
Yeah.
And that's what they often do. And we were like, you want to pull his record up, pull Lippard's up. Lippard had, I think it was 8 disciplinary actions against him with 20-day suspension. And my thing is, everybody's job, you get a verbal warning, you get a written warning, and you're terminated. Why do you keep, why are you allowed to keep doing these things and nothing is being done?
And nobody questions.
He shouldn't have, having that many disciplinary actions against him, he shouldn't have still been on that force. He shouldn't have been working with I I forgot what kind of force, flex force or whatever it is. He shouldn't even been there. I met a young man who also came in contact with Lippert probably years ago before this, and he told me, he said, that's the same officer that stopped me. And this boy had not been in any trouble or anything. And he called for backup, and they interrogated that young man to the point to where he's afraid of the police, and he moved out of Nashville because he no longer trusted Nashville
Oh,
police.
oh.
That's how bad it was.
So did Lippert face any disciplinary action at all? Did they see anything that he did about that day was not
No,
critical?
they didn't do anything except for let a killer go. That's what they did. And then it was one time I was on a radio show, 92Q. They had um they had opened the floor up to the public. Well, Megan Berry, she was one of the guests that was speaking. So I asked her, I said, it's been 9 months coming up on a year. I said, and all I have ever heard was protocol. What's protocol? I'm like, because I feel like if that had been your son
Oh,
that Lippert killed, it's not a question or a doubt in my mind that he would have been arrested, tried, and convicted and sitting in prison before the month of February was out.
man.
And she couldn't say anything because she knew I was telling the truth. The radio station even tried to cut that part out,
Oh, really?
but they got so much flack behind it, they ended up putting it back in. But yeah, I asked her that. And so when it came out that she had an affair, we was like, okay, this is why she wouldn't do anything to Milford. This is what they had on her.
Well, we could say it
Because
on here. They ain't got shit on me, girl.
you know. And I seen her again. It was another time that I had seen her, and this was before the radio station. This is when they was first um she was supposed to be supporting the community oversight
Yeah.
board. And I tried to. She knew it was us because we had Justice for Jocques black T-shirts on. So she's coming up the crowd, greeting the people before the little commentary thing started. But she saw us and she turned around and went back the other way. So I'm assuming that she must have told Forrest, don't let them buy me. Well, I'm short. So this other lady, when I go up on stage, because they was like, you'll know when it's about over because he's gonna start moving. So I kept my eye on him. So when I seen him moving, I'm like, okay, now I'm finna get up and I'm finna make a beeline to her. So I get up on that stage and somebody tries to block me and I
Oh.
duck because I'm short. So I just duck up under their arm and I catch up with her and I tap her on her shoulder. Because at this point, her son is now dead.
Oh.
And
Oh.
I tapped her and I said, do you remember me? And she's like, yeah. And she turned around and I
Oh.
tapped her again. I said, hey, I'm trying to say something to you. So she stood there a minute and I said, well, first of all, let me give my condolences to you, one mother to another. And we embrace, because she gets teary eyed. We embrace, and then I pull away from it and I say, now what you can do is get Lippert off these streets. Make sure he doesn't return back on these streets to kill somebody else's child. Oh, honey, he's not on the streets. Just trust me. Yeah, he ain't on that now, but he could be. But you're the one to keep him off the streets.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, he's not on there, and I just let her be. And then that's when the next time I saw her was at that radio station. And I'm like, I know she's probably saying this woman is a bad thorn in my side. It's like I everywhere I turn, here she is. You're right.
Yeah. Better damn believe it.
So, but yeah,
So,
I don't
okay. I want to bring that now. So we're to the point, they're saying that he didn't do anything wrong. They're not going to pursue charges. He did it by the book. Jay had a gun. It was totally justifiable. And then they offer to pay $5,000 to his funeral.
yeah.
Yeah.
And mind you, had the GoFundMe hadn't been as high as it was, they'd have paid the whole thing.
And that's
Jay's
kind of
funeral,
questionable. That's kind of suspicious.
yeah,
Like you said, it's kind of an omission of, here,
yep,
we're just gonna slide this to you and call it even. We messed up. Here's your 5 grand.
yeah,
Here's help, and that should be enough.
yep.
Mm. So is Lippert still an officer? Is he still out on the streets?
He is not an officer here in Nashville. Now, it's possible he may be an officer somewhere else because, um,
He still has
uh,
his badge. They never took his badge or anything like that from him. He's still able to work as an officer somewhere else if he wanted
yeah,
to.
because he resigned, he wasn't fired. That's what I have learned. If they don't fire you,
How
you
long
can.
after this did he resign, would you say?
It was 2 years later. He resigned. His last day as an officer of MNPD was October 25th, 2019.
I see. Was his reputation ever the same after this, would you think there?
I have no idea.
Hmm. I have some people that could figure out some things about Will Lipper. See what he's up to these days.
I do. I remember uh, we were at the sit-in because we started a sit-in to get Lippert fired in 2017.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, um,
And then in 2019, he's gone.
yeah. He didn't get fired, but he resigned.
Yeah, he stepped down.
I like to think that Jay he just couldn't get Jay off his mind, and Jay's like,
Yeah,
"No, you're not gonna do this,"
I believe.
you
I
know.
mean, yeah, him resigning. Yeah, I think that
Um,
says a lot.
I had heard that he was planning on suing MMPD because they wouldn't put him back on the streets. He was like, "I, I, I, I was not charged,
Oh wow.
so therefore let me back on the streets." But they never would. I'm like, this crazy man don't realize that he's safer inside of the building because if anybody spot him, there it is. So he was safer inside the building at a desk. He really was.
Lisa's on. I'm gonna pop up this what she says real quick because I was reading it and I don't have my glasses in here. I might have to sneak out on you and go get my glasses. Um, that's what police officers call throwaways. Most of all officers carry what they call throwaways and usually carry them in their sock. And now hold on, I gotta in their sock under those. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go get my glasses, y'all. You see how serious this is under their trousers. If it fell, why did they shoot him? My question is during that whole chase, there's a whole chase down the parking lot before a struggle even occurs to where they say that a gun could have possibly fallen out of his waistband. And all that running time, he's getting away. Wouldn't you think that before then he
He's
would think, oh, I need my taser to get him down, not I need my gun because my life is threatened. He didn't know, I know he didn't know he could have had anything on him and they could say that, but he was running away from you, bro.
hmm
You had
hmm
ample amount of time to pull that taser out, and that's what it all comes down to me. The rest of that is just irrelevant. You had ample amount of time to pull that taser out. You
Also,
had
while
time
he,
while you're standing by your police car to pull that taser out if you felt like that.
yeah, also think about this: if that supposedly gun is in Jay's waist, he's running. What else is he doing? He's perspiring, right? Wouldn't that cause his DNA to be on that gun?
Somewhere, somewhere. I mean, if they're saying that he had it all those years. If it was gone from
Yeah.
nowhere, screw just that day. If he put that gun in his waistband, how did it get there? Did somebody put it there for him? Did he use gloves to put it in his waistband then? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's crazy. I'll
Very.
I'll send those videos to you. I'll tell you what. Like I was telling you privately, Sheila, my husband's not into all this stuff, but he's sitting here on with me on the couch, and I'm looking at this video. I said, "Are you fucking kidding me? What the hell?" And I look over, he's looking over. They're like, "What is he saying he did now?" And I explained it to him. He's like, "You have got to be fucking kidding me." I'm like, "I know, babe." And for him, he's not into it. He supports everything I do here, but he doesn't do what I do, and he's just like, and I kid you, we sat there and watched that bad boy maybe 10, 20 times.
Yeah.
And it's just like how, where, and even my husband said, there were plenty of, where was his taser? Was it broke? Was it not on him? Because he had plenty of time.
Well, I have learned that the training book that they have that they use, they're trained to kill black and brown people.
I
They're
mean,
trained to.
I mean, and you know, given my position here, Sheila, you know, but
Yeah,
I feel like he had every. I think it's very plausible that Jay tried to record that. I mean,
yeah,
giving who he is, I mean, he's a black man and he's an officer. I mean, these days, yeah, I very much so believe that is there's a very big possibility, and I don't blame him for the recording it. You know,
yeah,
if especially no body cams, nothing. It's his word against
yep,
his,
yep.
and so I think it's very believable that he had his phone.
And it's funny that Lisa say they call those guns throwaways, or because when we left out of Glenn Funk's office, I'm sorry, when we left out of Glenn Funk's office, the attorney that we had, Mr. Hoskins, the first thing that he says is, far as I'm concerned, that's a throwdown. It's a
Wow.
throwdown. When Glenn Funk, because he made sure that we knew that Jay's fingerprints and his DNA was not found on that gun. Mr. Hoskins says, far as I'm concerned, that's a throwdown.
So did they ever give you a reason to as to why Jay's DNA could possibly not be on that gun?
The only explanation that they gave, one of his colleagues says, is that, well, it's just like if you come and touch this table, that doesn't mean that your fingerprints or your DNA is going to be on it. Okay, well,
I mean, you would handle that gun pretty tight. It wouldn't be just
right,
soft touch, or just it would be you would handle a gun.
yeah.
So
So
that's just crazy. Now, at least did the officer and Jay have any previous encounters that you know of?
that I know of, no. But throughout the years, I have heard that Officer Lippert knew exactly who Jocques was.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. I see.
Also, like I said, they made people take all those, because people were posting videos and stuff all over Facebook, but they have made those people take those videos down. And so, because I had saved a few of them, but once that the original person took it down,
Yeah.
then I was no longer able to
Yeah.
see it. So
But then they have these videos out here that they approve.
yes,
'Cause I've
and
seen it. I mean, I'm gonna drop them. I'm gonna.
there were several people stating all these police out here, why they walking around, because they were up on the street and everything. And you hear this one girl say, oh, they finna plant something. Also, MNPD has a contract with MDHA, which is Metro Housing Development. Okay.
Yeah.
So they were threatening to put people out had they spoke on this case. And that's one of the reasons why everybody was taking the videos down. And
Wow.
I'm like, throughout the years, I can't blame them for not saying anything, because they was being threatened to get put out if they had, like that one guy, he did speak up, and he said that he heard Lippert use a racial slur.
I
And
mean, I'm not saying, but that would kind of you just look at it, and I'm getting ready to drop them in the chat. You look at all three of them together, and they're all three different points, okay? And you can
okay,
see the clear distance between. And then it just seems like there's something going down, and then in a split second, Lipper does something, and then Jay comes. And I've always wondered, I wonder if he, you say something racial, yeah, you say, yeah. And I
But
mean, if he's saying enough, a person only could take so much before he's gonna cut. I mean, I'm that type of way. I'm only gonna take so much before I come across this room now.
right.
you know,
And that young man got put out. And I guess, by them seeing him get put out, that made everybody else clam up because they was like, I'm not going to lose my place of housing just to help this family, you know? And like I said, I couldn't blame them. I
no,
can't blame them
no.
because I didn't have a place to put them.
I will say right now that I would be very interested in talking to any witnesses around that day. I would very much invite them to come speak on what you. I won't edit shit. It's all uncutted and raw.
Yeah.
I don't change a thank you. I would love to, even privately, anonymously, however they felt comfortable. I would very much. Uh, my door is open. I would love to come hear what
So
you've seen and heard that day.
I would too. I
Yes.
would too.
Wow.
Because just hearing the videos, hearing people, police done shot somebody, and they was trying to figure out if Jay was the person from Chicago and all that. They said, no, he lived right there. That girl right there, that's where he lived at, and he was over there to get his youngest son off.
Okay.
Yeah, but the bus couldn't get up through there because they had, you know, blocked the streets and stuff off. And so I'm glad because I wouldn't have want his son to see him down
No, no. Gosh, no. Absolutely not. Just the fact that the bus you're telling that just gave me goosebumps. So that it was even that close.
there. Yep.
Ah, I'm just I'm just thinking about it all. And so is the case open or have they shut it?
I want to say that they shut it because they gave me back his clothes and stuff. I got them, but I haven't opened them.
No, I got my, I had an uncle. It was about 3 months before I was born, and he was shot. And Grandpa received his clothes back in from what I hear, the bits and pieces, a brown paper bag, and
Yep.
he took them straight out to the backyard and he buried them. He never could bring himself to look inside that bag.
Yeah.
So I bet you haven't, Sheila. I bet you haven't.
Yep.
So I mean, that just makes me think that they have at least, enough on their side, closed it on their end to give you those back.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a scuffle. There was contact between them, that's evidence. So you would think that if
Mhm.
they were going to, they wouldn't have released that.
Yeah.
Not just,
The police are they so crooked, you know.
especially
Uh
in Tennessee, they can just be like, oh, I fucked up. Well, let's create a law that hides that.
yeah. I
Which,
actually wanted to have a bill put in place and call it the Jocques Clemmons bill
uh,
that from this point on no one can be shot in the back and regardless if it's a police especially if it's a police officer being able to walk away.
yeah, because they're trained.
Yeah.
Whatever that happened, they're trained to do. That's different than somebody breaking into my house and we're scuffle and they turn around and
Yeah.
I shoot them.
And
That's totally different.
I often use the Waffle House killings as my example
Oh, please.
because you knew for a fact that this man had murdered these people. You knew that he had weapons on him, ammunition, everything. But when you caught him,
Yeah.
he's
Yes.
alive.
Yes.
Why wasn't you afraid for your life? And he's facing you. He's not running away from you. He's facing you with all of this on him, but yet you're not afraid of him.
Yes.
And that's just like I
That's
said,
just one example.
um,
There's many examples that I
yeah,
could go on, and I can list a few of them. And
and and I want to give a shout out to Susie McClendon. I met Susie at an event, and she said, I only came here because I knew you were going to come. And she was telling me about her son, Eric McClendon, being killed. And the
mm-hmm,
police is covering up that,
mm-hmm.
and
I've talked with her, and mm-hmm.
and we went down to the police department. She said, I know if anybody will go with me, I know you will, and so we would go down there, we want answers. But, to find out that the detective was involved in another case. I think I'm saying that right. He was involved in another case. Either way it go, it was a conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
So even Eric is not getting a fair shake. And I look at it like this: it's because Eric was mixed. So to them, he's black.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yes.
and so who gives a crap?
Yeah.
But I commend her because she's working that case herself. And they would hate to see her
There,
come.
they
They
are.
would,
There are good people out there that try to do their job and what is right.
yeah. And I I remember at the city, because I remember we started there, but you stopped me because you asked me something else. But at the sit-in, and y'all gonna think I'm crazy, but I ain't crazy. At the sit-in, I remember Jason Lamb from News Channel 5. He was out there and he was like, what's the purpose behind this sit-in? And I'm like, the purpose is to get Joshua Lippert off this police force, because I don't want him to ever kill nobody else's child as a police officer. And he said, so he's seen police officers going in and out of East Precinct, located 936 East Trinity Lane. And he said, what if Joshua Lippert was to come out that door? What would you want him to say to you? And I politely told him, I said, I wouldn't want Joshua Lippert to say anything to me, because my whole focus from February 10th up until, I think we started this sit-in September. I know we went 6 months, and we ended it on February 9th, the day before Jocques' first anniversary. So I'm thinking it's September, August or September, when we started. And I said, I know that Joshua Lippert will never face me. He said, I said, so let me just tell your viewers, I forgive him. And at that point, when I say all the stress and everything left my body instantly, I didn't do it for him. I did it for me.
Yeah.
Because I know where my faith is. And I'm like, if Jesus can forgive me for all the wrong I've done, surely I can forgive him.
And a lot
Because
of
he
people.
didn't get away, y'all. Because like I told them, even if he's not held accountable down here, he's gonna be held accountable when it's time for him to meet his maker. And I don't know what God is doing to Joshua Lippert. And whenever God puts it on my heart to pray for him and his family, I do. I don't pray for him every single day, but I do pray for him time, every so often. And my only prayer is wherever he is, I pray if he is a police officer or even if he's a civilian and he has a gun, I pray that he will think before he pulls that trigger.
Sheila, I will tell you, I think I can speak for a few families out there that say, what you have just said is probably hardest things for them to do because, I've heard a lot of family, you can either let the hate and the anger consume you, or you can find a way that balance that just one little area where you can find some peace and forgive them. And I will say here, I don't know if I was in your shoes, and like I said, I can always guess. Who I don't think I could, Sheila. I love I'm a faithful girl myself, and I love God. But man, I don't know if I could have that much strength.
Well, here's the thing. As long as I didn't do that, guess what? Joshua Lippert had power over me and my life.
And that is so strong. That's your baby. That's your only boy. So for you to
Yep.
just shows how strong you are. Very much, because yeah, I I don't know, and I can't ever say that I know. Like you said, I have a kid. I have boys myself, honestly, but I can't sit here and say I know how you're feeling. Um, but I've
Yep.
watched from my family's point of view just what that type of thing could do. So I'm glad that I think he should be reprimanded. And
Oh, I do too.
for sure, I think there should be, but it takes a lot of strength for you to say what you just said. I believe that with everything because these types of things are meant to destroy people, and it
Right.
takes a lot of strength to keep that from happening. Oh. So
But yeah.
what is one thing out of all of this, or a few things, it doesn't have to, that you would want people to know regardless, or something that you think that you've learned along the way that could, hey, look out for this, or any type of.
I would say don't ever give up. It might take years. I don't know, but don't give up. I keep coming back. Every time they think that, hey, she's done, she comes back, because I know that my son was murdered. I know this.
I think
And
there's witnesses that they
and
try to silence
if you
those.
believe whatever you believe, you follow your heart. And if your heart is telling you something ain't right, guess what? Something ain't right. There's a cover up going around somewhere. Uh, don't give up. You know, there some people's justice come quick and some take longer. But you're an individual. You know.
Yeah.
You know. Um, do things to change some laws. I
Very
know,
brave of all of you guys to start talking.
like with me, I know mine was by the police. Every and it's very few people that I meet whose loved one was killed by the police. So everybody else, I have learned that when an individual is killed by someone else, 9 times out of 10 is somebody that they knew. It ain't a total. It might be maybe 1% that's a total stranger that killed your child, but 99% of the time, it's somebody that knew them. That's what I'm finding out,
Yeah. Yeah.
and sometimes it can even be a family member, believe it or not. But like I told another mom, I wouldn't give a doggone if it was my mama. If she killed my child, guess what? My mama gonna have to pay
Amen.
because
Yes.
that's my child,
Hmm. Oh, God.
and
Yeah.
nobody had the right to take his life. Now, I will say this, because the Bible tells us that we all got an appointed time. So I had to refocus my brain. And I'm like, okay, so at the age of 31, no matter what, Jocques was going to leave this world.
And that's so hard to think about, though, you know?
It is. It
Yeah.
is. But I had to go there in
Yeah.
order to have peace,
Yes.
knowing that it could have been an accident, it could have been a health reason, it could have been a drug overdose,
Yeah.
it could have been a lot of things, suicide, but it just happened to be a police officer. But at the
Mm.
age of 31, he was going to leave. And that's how I have to look
Yeah.
at things. Because if not, people always tell me, oh, you're so strong. You're this, you're that. No, I'm not strong. If it was up to me in the flesh, I would be in the floor and never get up.
Yeah. And I think people, they see, you know, and they don't understand just because you are able to pick yourself up off the floor and have some remnants of a life, you know, you have other people that depend on you for whatever reason it is. I think that they forget that just because that they do that, that they don't leave all of that stuff. They carry, you carry it with you and you
Yeah,
still pick yourself up. You don't leave it there. You have to take all of that and still pick yourself up and continue to do those things. And it's
yeah.
still very much every day for you guys. And I think we see you guys out there and about living, you know, and not that we assume, oh, they must be over it, but you know, it's
No,
easier us to forget, you know, that this is your reality every day, no matter what you're doing.
I tell people I was wearing a face mask way before coronavirus ever hit. I started wearing a face mask on February 10th, 2017, because even though you see me smile, you see it, but that face mask says something different. You know, you don't see me crying, but my husband and God does. My own children haven't seen me cry over Jacques. And I had Asia, my second daughter, to ask me, she said, Mama, don't you miss him? She said, I never see you cry about him. And I feel like if my girls see me cry and break, guess what? They're going to cry. They're going to break even farther down because their faith is not like my faith. And long as they see their mama being strong, they're going to continue to hold on. But my husband and God, they see it all.
Yeah.
They see it all. And like, I don't even have to really be thinking about Jay. And when it gets close to his birthday or the death date or Father's Day, any kind of holiday, my body tells me. Like when my husband was in the hospital of March of 2018, and Jay's birthday is March 30th. He was in the hospital on the 28th. And so when 12 o'clock hit on the 30th, I mean, I had went about my day and everything on the 29th. But as soon as 12 o'clock hit, I was in that room and I just busted out crying. And he was like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I'm like, "Jay should be here. It's his birthday. He should be here."
Absolutely.
But I tell you this, Jay's death, I like to think that God used Jay to change some things here. Things are not perfect. No, they're not. But I helped fight to get the community oversight board, me and my husband, when the FOP kept coming at him, and that little group that we became part of, I'm like, we can't give up. Cause see, what God has for us, it is for us. Let's keep fighting. And they have been trying to get a community oversight board here for over 50 something years.
Oh, wow.
We did that. We did that. We fought for the body cameras. We finally got the body cameras, even though it took years later, but we got them.
And that's so important, because if he was wearing a body cam, there
Yep.
would have been so much more insight to what went down. And
Yep.
we wouldn't have to just rely on his word.
Yep.
Wow. That's
So we fought for those things.
wow. I bet he would be proud. I know he would be proud. I don't have to bet.
He's come to me several times, and his message to me is, "I'm happy and I need you to live." That's been, I mean, I've had a experience with him. You know, like I said, I don't want people to think I'm crazy, but I had an
No.
experience with him.
Mm-mm.
And I was at my oldest brother's house the Sunday before Memorial Day of 2018, and my cousin was there. And my cousin looked at me. Now I already spoke to my cousin, and he looked at me and he was like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "This crazy thing." I already done spoke to him, and he said it again. He said, "Mama, how are you?" And I'm like, "What?" You know. And at that point, he's got my full attention. And you know how you see people, you see people walking around, but you don't hear them talking and all of this stuff like you would
Mhm.
normally do. I'm just focused on my cousin, or should I say Jay. And he was like, "You're wondering, but I need you to live." He says, "The pages have already been turned and we can't unturn them." He said, "We're living in a white man's world, but we know the answer."
Amen.
And my cousin put his hands together, like, you know how you make a bird with your
Yeah.
putting your
Yeah.
thumb. Well,
Hmm.
he did that, and when he couldn't go no higher, his hands came loose and he fell asleep. Well, I know a young lady, and I called her, and she said, "Do you believe that it was him?" I'm like, "Yeah, because it's some things that were said that only me and him would know." So he told me those things so I would know for sure that it was him. And so after that experience, She said, has your cousin ever said anything to you about that? I'm like, no. And that's what my friend said. She said, don't you say anything to your cousin. Wait and see if your cousin says anything to you. I'm like, well, the strangest thing is that he fell asleep instantly. She said, yeah, when the spirit leaves your body, that's what it does. He didn't know what was going on. All he knew that his body was strained.
Yeah, that's what I was
And,
gonna say. I imagine someone you.
and
Mhm.
after that, because I had avoided, I lived on South 7th. So I lived a street over from where Jay lived and where he got shot and killed.
Oh, wow.
And I avoided that street all that time. But after that experience, that Memorial Day, it was on Memorial Day, I was able to go back up on South 6 and stand in the spot where my son lost his life. But I couldn't do it at first.
Yeah, and I get that. For my own
And
personal reasons, I get that.
so I've had several other people that didn't even know him or anything, and they was like, well, we got a message for you, and he says to tell you to live your life. He's happy. And I find comfort in that because that's what he wants. He wants me to be happy. So I try my best to live my best life for him and me. You know, most moms don't have grandchildren from their loved ones. I was blessed to have two. And not only do I have those two, my other two grandsons, they all look like Jay. So
I was
I
gonna say, I bet
have
you see a
them.
little bit of Jay in all of them.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the best I mean, that's the best gift now that you can have. That's the next best thing.
Yep.
Oh.
And I often tell people I didn't choose activism. Activism chose me.
I bet you just love those moments. Do you ever get moments from your grandchildren where it's so Jay, it just stops you and you're just like, "Oh, there he is."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. His oldest son is getting ready to graduate in May. And so I'm gonna have a big picture of Jay blown up.
I would say
Uh,
they were very of age
yeah,
during this when this happened to their dad.
yeah,
They were aware. Oh,
yeah,
that just breaks. I mean, having young babies, is tragic. But, for some reason, when I know that they were old enough to be aware of the situation,
yeah,
they don't have to be told about it. They lived through it, and wow, my
yeah.
heart just breaks even more.
So yeah, so we're that's our plan is to get a big picture of him to have him there at that graduation,
Yes.
and just say congratulations, son.
Oh,
You know, and that's what we do. Like on holidays, I had a Jewish friend. He had went home. I forgot where he was from, but he had went home and he sent me a picture where they had set a place for Jay at the table. Had his name sitting on the plate with the empty chair in front of it. And it gave me the idea. I'm like, okay. So what did we do? Because Jay loved to eat. Oh my God. He loved to eat. And I remember taking a picture of him one Thanksgiving with a plate of food. I'll have to send you that picture. And we had that picture blown up. And he sits with us on Thanksgiving through that picture.
that's all. Because I mean, just looking at my family, that is just something that they would have never done. It would have been hard for them to have that, their brother, my uncle sitting at the. It would have been so. It's just great, to see the different types of,
And
levels.
I'll tell you something else. Mark's son, he reminds us of Jay as well. I had took a picture of him And some of my family, they was like, wait a minute, we had to take a second look because if we didn't know any better, we would say that that was Jay. So I have my son.
Yeah.
I do have my son, just not in the
But no, it's
physical form. But
it's
I got him all over.
and it's so wonderful because I've talked to a lot of families, and some will say, as much as they do see their children and their grandchildren, sometimes it's also hard for them. It's bittersweet sometimes. I
It
bet,
is.
I bet it's a rush of emotions at some points. But you all have said one thing, is that's the greatest gift, is how hard it is to see. It's what you need, and it's all you have. So
Hey,
you sound like me and my little rugrats. I just He just sounds like just such a light was taken.
a beautiful life.
Just a light. I mean, you see it in his spot. Look at his face.
Yeah.
That smile.
I had pulled a video off of his Facebook page where he's just full of life. The youngest son is in the car with him, his dog Leary, and they're just driving, and he's like, "Yeah, we on the east side, baby." And you see the life,
Life, yeah.
and I'm like, when I want to see him, I go to that video in full effect. There he is, full of life, just
I would like
laughing
to
and
see that
just
video.
enjoying.
I don't think I've
Okay.
seen that. Yeah. You'll have to send that to me in that picture, and I'll post. I think everybody would like to see that.
Yeah.
Oh, and I know, and I don't want to say this the way it sounds, but geez, just when you hear, who they were and such life, and they brought such happiness, it's just, it just makes you say, it's usually those ones. Those are usually the good ones
Mhm.
that have so much to give, and it just doesn't seem fair.
Nope.
I thank you for coming and sharing, not just what happened to him, but he just seemed like he was everywhere. He had lots of energy. He
Yeah.
just had he just that's what I get for it. And just as much as I want to remember and bring awareness to what happened, I love hearing about who everybody was.
Yeah.
I just feel like, just me being me, I'm a very sentimental permit. It just also brings them back for just those few brief moments. It's just like
Yeah.
they're here again, and I just like it knowing about them. And I think that's what
I
we're
agree.
missing. I tell everybody, I say, it's just more than pictures and posts. These were actual people that
Right.
had
Right.
personality and loved ones and life
Yep.
that branched out. It's just, and
Full of life. You know.
I
I
think
remember
that's
when
what
when
we need to remember.
when Jay when I first met my husband Mark, Jay was like, I'm finna go get him, and I'm like, oh Lord. And he, you know, I'm like, what did he ever say to you? Right to this day, I don't know what the conversation is, but I'm pretty sure Jay was like, that's my heart right there. And 2 weeks before he was killed, he had a conversation with Mark, telling Mark, he said, Daddy, and that's what shocked me too, because he didn't call any of the guys that I fooled with nothing but their name. And he was like, you know what, Daddy? I don't have to worry about my mama anymore. He said, I know you gonna have her back and you're gonna take care of her. And that's another reason why I say, did he feel
Yeah.
like something was finna happen? Because all of this, the going to church and him having that conversation with Mark, it was all within 2 weeks of him getting killed.
And I've heard so many stories of right before this happened, they got right, and
Yep, yep,
and it's just it's chilling,
yep,
and not in a bad way, but it's just I like I said, I believe heavily in those things, and yeah, I'm right with you. I think not hindsight. They almost had to have known somebody somewhere something was preparing them,
yeah.
and yeah, a lot of my family will say my uncle before he died, it was months before he died. He started going to church again, and he was
Mhm.
going, and then just like that, he was gone, and it's just yeah, it happens. I believe it.
Yep,
He's prepared, and it's such a tragedy, but it's just such a. I mean, just me being having faith, just such a good, that's awesome.
yeah.
That's
And,
awesome. He was being prepared.
and and in the beginning, I told you he was a huge Cowboys fan. He had gave me a Dak Prescott jersey. He said, "This is your birthday present," and he gave me a Dak Prescott jersey, and he had one. And when we were making the funeral arrangements, Anita tells uh, Pastor, she was like, "It would be so cool if we could get a Cowboys casket." He said, "Oh, baby, that's gonna be real expensive, and your mama, don't put no more on your mama, like that." And so he said, "Well, what color casket would you get?" I said, "Of course, it would be either blue or gray, because Cowboys colors, of
Hmm.
course." Well, like I said, we didn't see Jay until the 17th, the day before. And I didn't have a public viewing. I just wanted it to be,
Yeah.
his immediate family, me, Mark, his sisters, his children, my sisters and brothers, and that was it. And I had told Pastor, I said, "Don't let anybody, I don't care who it is, it could be Jesus himself trying to get in there to see him. Nobody should see my son before me." And so when we got there, he said, "Sister Sheila, you, Brother Mark, the daughters, and the two sons, y'all go ahead in." Well, when we walked in, Jay was laying there in a Cowboys casket. The funeral home had did it.
No.
Because, they had always, uh, my pastor at the time worked at the funeral home, and that's all he's ever heard us say was, he was a huge Cowboys fan. And, you know, um, Wendy, the owner of the funeral home, my whole dad's side of the family, that's all they use. So she was very familiar with us. And when we walked in, like I said, he was laying in a Cowboys casket. We almost forgot where we were because we started taking pictures. We were doing photo shoots. I mean, we were just.
Oh my goodness, because that's so wonderful.
And so just his funeral was the next day. We got on the phone and we was like, "Hey, he's in a Cowboys casket. Do y'all got Cowboys colors or anything Cowboys? We're dressing down. We're not,
Yeah,
we came in there with jeans, outfits on, the Cowboys colors.
representing, man.
Everything was
Yes.
Cowboys. Even the program was Cowboys." And we was like, yeah, and it just changed the whole atmosphere for us. And and I told Wendy, I said, "If he could thank you himself,"
Oh Lord.
and she said, "I figured that I could give you at least this little bit of joy." So yeah, she paid for that casket herself,
Oh
the
my
funeral home owner. So I see those pictures too. I
Yeah, I
was
was gonna say, respect, obviously nothing new, but it just it was. I would love to. Wow, I don't know what I would have. I would have probably fell out right then and there. To be honest with you,
I mean you I'm like, shoot, let me take a picture this way. Let me do
yeah,
this, you know.
that is so wonderful.
Oh yeah,
There are truly amazing people out there. Truly
it
amazing.
is. It is.
Wow. I'm just trying
And
to
my
picture it. I'm trying to picture it. Me, I think cowboys, I'm thinking stars
oh
everywhere.
no, it was the whole field. It was
Oh,
the I
really?
gotta send it to you. I
Yeah.
really do. And my nephew Jerry, he come, he said, Auntie, he said, don't let them start without me. And I'm like, boy, I can't hold this funeral up for you because he said, I gotta get my outfit. He he walks in there with a white outfit on. It's a suit. He's got Jocques's name on the legs, and he's got his picture on the jacket, and his birthday, his death. I'll send you that too.
Yes.
And after the funeral, he pulls it off. He said, "This is for you." But yeah, he's like, "Don't let them start." I'm like, I can't hold this funeral up.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yeah,
It fits. It fits so well. That is so amazing that they did that for you and for him.
yeah,
I bet his kids loved that. Just out of everything that I would have loved to have just been a fly on the wall to see that.
yeah. And his first year, I gave each of his boys in a case one of his jerseys.
That is
So
awesome.
so
That's
they got a keepsake
I'm a very
jersey.
sentimental person. So that
Yeah,
is just wow. That's so awesome. I'm
yep,
just that is just truly who that those people deserve that. Yeah. Because they didn't have to do that. And that just shows there's so many good people out there.
it is. It truly is.
Well, I thank you, Sheila, for coming and sharing that with us.
Well, I thank you for having me,
Um,
and hopefully somebody might see this and be encouraged.
yes, and then after it's funny you say that because as soon as you got off here, I was gonna let those people know that was those witnesses that my door's open. I would just love to hear what they have to say.
Yeah,
Seen.
I would too.
I mean, especially if they went as far as to take them videos down, they might
Yeah,
not want to hear you, but I sure do.
yeah,
So yes, and if anything, like I said, you get off here, I tell everybody the same. Oh, you get off here and you message, say, Ash, I forgot to say this. You just let me know, we'll come back on, or you tell me what to say and I'll get up there and say it.
okay.
So, mind and especially if people are willing to come share even just memories about Jay. It doesn't have to. Anybody that wants to reach out, say I was Jay's friend. This is who he was, and
Hmm.
yeah, I will. I want to hear that too. So I appreciate. Me and you have talked, and there's still gobs here that I learned. So I appreciate you coming, filling us all in.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Oh, that was just so wonderful. I mean, just looking at his picture, it was a dead ringer. Everything that just his picture says, you just brought to life for me, and that's
Yeah.
awesome.
And that picture behind me was a gift. A young lady painted that picture.
which I could not even draw a stick person. So
Me
that
either.
incredible.
Me either.
That is really amazing. Now, is this just somebody, just a stranger that just cared, or is it somebody that you knew? Either or.
Yeah, it was somebody that I knew.
Yeah, but still, just for people to take the time out, that took a lot of time.
Yeah. I
I'm
say it took him
I
at
love
least a
hearing
year
stuff.
because it was a year, it was at his anniversary, the first year anniversary. That's when they gave it to me. So no telling how long they've been working on
Yeah, yeah. And my sister, she's a painter, so I can say I've sat down and watched her paint a few canvases, and you know
it. Yeah,
I could never do something like that. So for somebody to do that for you is awesome.
yeah. I like to walk in my house and just see my
There
see
you
my baby smile.
go. Oh, that is a smile. He was handsome, Miss Sheila. I'll tell you that. He was a handsome man.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to keep it. I will gab for forever, but like I said, my door is always open, and um,
I appreciate you.
I hope
You
everybody
know.
out there will share this. I have it shared to the page, and usually after here, I go put in a couple highlights, and yeah, I hope people are just as interested because it's they pay attention to those videos. Whew,
Yeah.
see how he no suspension, nothing. Nothing. What they said about what he did was
Nothing.
wrong, and that's what I don't agree with, regardless of what they're trying to say. I say that there's plenty of wrong. There's plenty of other options he could have taken before it got
Oh
that.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think people should know. So I thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me and thank you for, you know, being a willing vessel.
Oh yeah. No, I keep telling everybody, you guys put in the hard work. I'm just a loudmouth with a microphone or and a camera.
Mhm.
So I'm just happy to keep pushing it out there.
Okay.
So you have a good night.
You too.
I
We'll
know.
be in touch.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yes we will.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Oh, I am so glad that I had. I was supposed to have her on last night, and I was having technical difficulties. We all know how I am with that, but I'm just so happy that she was finally able to come on. Like I said, I've watched those videos, and I was very interested to hear the details surrounding. And like I said, I'm very, I stick to my word. If there are anybody out there that was there that day, and witnessed anything and would like to reach out, please, however you feel comfortable, anonymously. Uh, you don't have to come on here and show your face. You don't have to come on here and have your name. You have control of that. I do not. Or if you would just like to chat privately, we can do that too. I'm just very curious, um, as I hope everybody should be. We should question these things. We should feel like we're allowed to question these things. And, you know, police in their position and us on the other side, they should be prepared if they did everything right for questions and concerns, and they should take the time to answer them more correctly. And I still think that in Jay's case, it wouldn't be enough because that video don't sit right with me, and I hope it doesn't sit right with you guys. So I thank you for watching, and until next time, this is Ash with TC Spotlight. You guys stay safe out there and have a good night.